Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, I'm Stav, and this is my husband Mac, and this is our channel She Equips Herself, where we talk all things concealed carry and personal protection. We did a part 1 Q&A, and this is our part 2 because we had so many good questions that I received on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So this is gonna be part 2. If you didn't watch part 1 yet, I'm gonna link it right here so you can watch that. Come back and watch this one. So
here we go.
So here we go. What species do we like to fish for?
No. Well, I have an absolute favorite.
Me too.
Right,
wait, say it on 3.
No. Well,
Yeah.
wait, are you just going to go wide open, or is it salt and fresh, or you just wide open answer?
Wide open.
All right, wide open answer. You ready on 3?
3, 2, 1, and you answer. Ready?
All right, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Smallmouth. All right.
I thought you were going to say largemouth.
No. Largemouth is the predominant species where we live. So it's like, it's what we have to fish for all the time. But if I could target smallmouth bass, like where we go all the time, even when we only have a few hours to go out, that's what I would go after all the time. And I love largemouth fishing too. I mean, but it's just the smallmouth, they're so angsty, like always upset.
They are, yeah.
They fight harder for their size. They school. So when you get into one, you can kind of get into a few. Like if I catch one, then we've had many doubles over the years with smallmouth and then less with largemouth.
Yeah.
So
it's different.
Their environment, you can catch them in open water, so you're not always trying to yank them out of the weeds and trees and everything else. So you can catch them on much smaller tackle. Yeah, smaller. They jump like crazy.
Yeah. Which gun do you carry the most? I feel like we've talked about this in recent videos, but I've been carrying the Glock 42 the most.
Yeah, I've been carrying the Glock 42 the most.
Okay. Okay. As a Christian woman, I think this one's to me.
You sure?
Does anything in the news make you mad or upset in any way? If so, how do you deal with it? So I was editing that clip and I realized that that part of the video was very out of focus. So I'm just gonna refilm my answer. Yes, a lot of what I see on the news and on social media, etc., is very upsetting. I think that a lot of the times it's designed to upset us because these algorithms have learned that we'll click on things that upset us more than things that make us happy. Is that something that's a little bit twisted about our human nature? Probably, but that's how it works. Things that I see on the news, obviously I get upset. But that's honestly why I try not to watch the news all that much anymore. I feel like I went through a phase where I would watch the news, like posts on social media, and it's not good for me mentally. I think that we have to be really mindful of what we allow into our brains. The foods that we eat and consume physically are going to affect our bodies, and the things that we consume through our eyes and ears are going to affect our minds. So if you're consuming too much bad news, that can be really, really bad for your mental health and your overall well-being. So I think it's important for us to be aware of what we're consuming and why we're consuming it. Are we just gluttons for bad news? Because yes, it's good to be aware of what's happening in the world, but usually I can't do all that much about something happening halfway around the world, but I could do a lot for my neighbor down the street who's struggling, or a family member, a friend. I also don't think that we're designed to handle the news worldwide the way that we're bombarded with it these days. I think that traditionally you'd know what's going on in your family, in your immediate community, your neighborhood, but not the entire world. If something happens across the world right now, I can find out about it 2 seconds later. And I don't necessarily think that that's healthy, nor that our minds are designed to handle that type of information at such a frequent rate. Another thing I want to say is that this is why it's so important to know what your worldview is. As a Christian, I have a certain worldview, and everything that I experience, everything that I think about, the way that I think about my life, the actions that I take, all filter through that worldview. If you have the worldview that you don't believe in God and that this is the only life there is, then you're going to deal with things differently than someone who does believe in God and believes that God has a plan from beginning to end, like me. That's what I believe. So that's my worldview, and that's going to shape the way that I deal with things and understand what's going on in the world around me. And so I wanted to point out a scripture that I love. It's in 2 Corinthians, and it says, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen." Because what is seen is temporary, and what is unseen is eternal. So that's basically the way that I see things. I understand why things are happening. I understand why things happen the way they do, and I understand, because of God's word, the Bible, what the plan was in the beginning, how we screwed it up, and how God fixes it, and then what's going to happen in the end, because it's all in the book. So I think it's important to know your worldview, because it's going to shape everything about the way that you think about the world and your life. Understanding that God has a plan for humanity and that we're here for a very specific purpose definitely changes the way that I deal with and understand the things that happen in this world. Can you talk about shooting at steel targets with your carry gun? My husband and I were at the range practicing, and I had a piece fly off and come straight back at my face, and now I'm terrified to practice with steel targets. Is there a special trick?
Well, there's a couple things I've done over the years to minimize any type of ricochet or splashback. Number one thing that will absolutely take care of business for you, and you shouldn't have anything come back, is if you use frangible ammunition. It's very expensive and it dirties your gun terribly, but it does a great job of not sending any particles back at you. So frangible ammunition would be the easiest solution. It wouldn't be the most cost-effective solution. Making sure that your target has a strong angle on it. And I think that right after I'm done talking, I'll take you outside and show you a couple steel targets that I use that really reduce any type of splashback or ricochets. Having a strong angle, so when the projectiles come in, they hit at a nice steep angle and then they're deflected down into the ground. That will save you a lot. I've seen a lot of targets that are almost straight up. So the bullet comes in and basically the bullet kind of explodes on that steel. But yeah, the jacket could come back at you. A little piece of leg could come back at you. So be careful there. And then the last thing I'll say, which I've seen many, many times, is your steel target has to be flat. If it has any significant dents or holes or anything on it where the bullet can hit a funny edge, that is an accident waiting to happen. Your entire steel target needs to be flat. So if someone, rocked a rifle round or shot a slug at your steel target and there's a significant dent or a hole in it, that's the end of that steel target pretty much. I mean, that's just, it can hit that funny edge and come back and do all sorts of things. So, whoop, I just kicked the camera. So make sure that your steel target has a strong angle and make sure it's flat. There's no damage to it, and then you should be good to go. And also, don't get too close to it. Give yourself some distance. I think I would say 10 yards would be, I wouldn't get any closer than 10. In fact, further back would even be better. Just wanted to show you two steel targets I have. First off, you can see there's no major dents. There's a bunch of little small ones, but anything major would, right there, it's probably the worst one. A little bit of a bulge. That's things you got to start paying attention to. Anything can screw that up. But just to show you the angles. So that's a pretty steep angle. I don't use this target nearly as much. I've had to rebuild it a bunch of times, but it's not angled enough. And that's why I created this target. I'll go around the front. This target has been shot a million times, just not only by me, but the PD. And I put that speed square at the bottom there so you can see the angle I have. That's a 45-degree angle. So it's not quite 45 degrees, but you can see it's leaning forward pretty dramatically. That, and it's mounted on springs as well. That right there does a great job of deflecting it. And if you step back, you don't really even notice it's leaning that down. But just wanted to show you real quick what happens to this target. This used to be this piece of wood. So the rounds come in, they hit here, they go straight down, and they just beat the hell out of the piece of wood. And this is the third one that I've replaced it with. So I put a new piece in, but you can see it's like the sides got all chewed up. I put those side pieces in there. So you got to constantly be rebuilding it, but you put that steep angle on your steel targets, you'll never have a problem with splashback.
Why 380 over 9? I don't know.
Can I answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so first off, The handgun that we use in 380 is very light. And that might not matter.
The Glock 42.
The Glock 42 is very lightweight. It's the smallest and lightest firearm that you can shoot really well with. So if you care about carrying the weight and the size on your body for 18 hours a day, if that matters to you, then the weight might start to matter and the size might start to matter. Now you could probably get a 9mm that's almost that light, but when you pull the trigger on a super lightweight 9mm, it's not super comfy to shoot. And that's what I mean by it's the smallest, lightest firearm you can really shoot well with. You could shoot a whole class with that little tiny gun.
It's
and
comfy.
Your hands won't be punishing.
Comfy, cozy.
When it comes to the ballistics of a 9 versus a 380, a 9 is better. I mean, any way you slice it, a 9 is going to probably do the job slightly better than a 380, but slightly, I think, is the correct term there. Every time you're dealing with a pistol round, you have to know that all you're doing is drilling holes in the target. So we're just talking about the depth of the hole and the diameter of the hole. And that's really it. There's no magical spell to how handguns work. You're drilling a hole in the target. The diameter of a 380 and the diameter of a 9mm are the same. The depth could be different, but they're the same. Now, they're not the same if you put a good hollow point in your 9mm. I don't like hollow points in 380s most of the time. I haven't found enough concrete data up there to be. What happens is if a 9mm hollow point expands, it will still travel far enough to do the necessary damage on like a human-sized target. A 380 hollow point, once it expands, it generally does not have the penetration to do the proper damage to a human-sized target. So we carry flat-nosed full metal jackets, and there's a lot of ammunition in 380. There's a lot of ammunition out there that we want to look at and test. There's a lot of different new technology out there that is hopefully going to drive the 380 into a better round. But the reduced recoil is super helpful in the 380 for follow-up shots, the lightweight gun. And the other thing is, for my entire military career, I carried a 9mm with full metal jackets. A full metal jacket 9mm and a full metal jacket 380 is really, you're really splitting hairs on basically performance at that point. The big difference is a hollow point out of a 9mm will most likely work correctly, and a hollow point out of a 380 will most likely not work correctly. But I never felt like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to stop a bad guy or get anything done because I'm not carrying hollow points when I was a Marine. I was relatively comfortable with carrying the Beretta, figuring that, if I have to use this pistol, things have gone really bad anyways, because I was a machine gunner. But I feel like a 380 full metal jacket will get the job done, and I'll say, as the last point, I've seen it get the job done a few times. I've been to multiple calls where people are no longer alive because of the 380. It worked. Like, I've seen it work with my own eyes. And the last thing is, I like history. Wild Bill, you ever heard of Wild Bill Hickok? He carried 36 caliber revolvers. He carried the 1851 Colt Navy, which is a 36 caliber, and is less powerful than 380. And everybody knows his name. And he won lots of gunfights. So, like, all right. I'm not saying I'm Wild Bill, but what I'm saying is, even carrying the Glock 42, I have a better firearm than he had, and he managed to get it done a lot. He did all right. He did all right. So I feel like it can get done with a 380.
Can you give me that second? Someone asked favorite Christian books. No, the whole thing.
Oh, you should stack them.
I'm gonna go through these quick because I have a lot, and I just grabbed a couple or a few that I want to mention real quick. Okay. I love C.S. Lewis. I always say, if I could meet one person, like a celebrity, dead or alive, it would be C.S. Lewis. He's my old man crush. Mere Christianity.
Other than me. Another old man crush.
Okay, Mere Christianity is one of my all-time favorite C.S. Lewis books. If you are confused about Christianity, what it is, blah, 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 why you should believe it, this is an amazing book. He was an atheist, and he kind of goes through his thought process from beginning to end, how he realized that Christianity is the real deal. Another great book by him is The Screwtape Letters. This is an amazing book. It's basically letters written from one demon to another, breaking down how to tempt a human and how to lead them away from Christ. So, excellent book. I saw the play as well. The Knowledge of the Holy is super short. Look how thin that book is. And each chapter, which is like 2 or 3 pages, goes through a different attribute of God. His omniscience, his immutability, which means that he doesn't change, his eternity, all of that is in each chapter. And this book has so much good stuff in it. It's a little bit, okay, I think it was written in 1961, so the words are a little more old-timey, but this is an excellent book if you want to challenge yourself and really learn about God. A marriage book that I really love is Tim Keller's The Meaning of Marriage. He recently passed away. Rest in peace, Tim Keller. But this book is a great book on marriage, kind of gives the whole spiel on what marriage is and how to do it right. Excellent book. Of course, the Bible, which I should have mentioned first, number 1. Another Tim Keller book, The Prodigal God. It puts a spin on the prodigal son. Worth the read, really short. The Case for Christ, if you don't believe in the resurrection or want proof of the resurrection, it's all in here. Also a great movie. And then this is one that's more like the lifestyle of Christianity that I read recently, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Excellent book. I have more, but I'll keep it short for this Q&A. All right, that's it. Do you go hunting every day? If so, what's on the list for the hunt? I'm guessing they're asking, what do we bring with us?
We hunt as often as we can.
Almost every day.
And one of us is usually in the tree stand. At least if you're in the tree stand, I might be home. I might be out there even like this morning. But
I have this, what's it called?
That hand warmer thing.
Like a hand
kind of like what
warmer.
A football player wears.
Yeah, it's
like
like this pocket that both my hands fit into with a couple hand warmers in it to keep my hands toasty. I usually bring a deer collar and sometimes a rattling bag, a flashlight, a knife, and my phone. I think
that's the most important thing when she calls me. And, I got one, come get it. Like,
I usually text you while I'm shaking.
That's true. I'm gonna add, this is I don't like talking about this and it doesn't feel good every time I have to do it, but the knife that I carry that's like on my body when I'm bow hunting, I also use for 2 things that you need to know. Like, number 1, the knife is big enough and rugged enough to trim small branches that might be in my way so I can get shooting lanes. But I also use it to dispatch wounded deer.
If you have to.
Yeah, so sometimes, you know, like, you have to think about this, like, your arrow costs, like, what's an arrow cost? $35, $40 when you get your luminoc and your broadhead and your arrow.
Together, yeah.
So shooting and, like, dispatching a deer that's been wounded but is still alive, and you're gonna like shoot it at an angle where your stuff might go into the ground, your arrow might go into the ground after it passes through the deer and break the broadhead and break the tip. It's, you know, it's not like walking up to it and shooting it with a gun. It's much easier. So sometimes you have to use a knife to take the deer out of its misery. It's never fun to dispatch a deer with a knife. But I use a knife that's big enough and rugged enough to do that, and that's also, you know, that's not what I use normally. Like, that's not the knife I use when I'm gutting or butchering or anything. It's a whole different ball of wax. So that needs to be there. A pair of little hand snips, like gardening snips, that's a great piece of gear to have. That's even better than, you know, for trimming up areas where you have to have shooting lanes and getting things out of your way. So a way to drag the deer back or drag the deer to a better location to where you might work on it. So some type of dragging strap. I have the same rope that I've had since I was a kid. It's a black, like pretty rugged, almost like an anchor rope, and I've been dragging deer through the woods with that thing my whole life. So having that rope is a good piece of gear as well.
Do your dogs eat the whole bones or just chew on them?
Depends on which bone.
Yes. So lately, when I give them like a deer leg bone, once all the meat's gone, I'll take it away and get rid of it, because I was reading about weight-bearing bones and that those are really hard on their teeth. So for those types of bones, I'll let them eat the meat off them now and then take away the bone after that. For smaller bones, like rib bones or parts of a chicken, like chicken ribs and chicken necks and things like that, they'll eat the whole thing. But make sure that you're feeding them raw bones if you're feeding them bones, because if you feed them cooked bones, they could splinter. How do you control recoil on smaller guns?
Well, one way is to get a lighter caliber. I mean, that's, again, one of the reasons I like the 42 is it's a super lightweight gun, but it handles the recoil very, very well. A lot of people like to go with the super lightweight, small 9mm, and you have to pay the price somewhere. Yes, you have better ballistic performance, but you're paying the price. You can probably not go through, oh, hello, my girl. You cannot, hello, sweetie. You cannot go through like a legitimate, you know, class with one of those little micro nines because you'll just beat the hell out of your hand.
Yeah.
So,
no fun.
You can minimize the recoil by dropping a caliber. Or getting a bigger gun. Getting a better belt, getting a better holster, carrying a bigger, heavier gun.
How many kids do you have?
2.
2 boys. What helped you get more comfortable handling guns? He's been he's been handling guns since he could walk.
I was at the range the other day doing the police department, and for some reason, like a conversation was going on over here, and officers were talking about the first time they ever fired a firearm. And then I kind of went over and they asked me, when was the first time you ever fired a firearm? And I was like, I have no recollection. I have no memory of that. What are you talking about? Like, everybody remembers the first time they went shooting. I'm like, I have no,
you have no
don't
idea.
have any idea when I went shooting. Like, I don't have a memory of the first time I fired a 9mm or the first time I fired a 38 or even a 22.
I have my
so
first
I don't
target.
know.
This is my first target ever. I thought it was July 2006, but it's actually April 2006. You should have kept yours. Yours was much further back.
I don't know what to say.
I'd say if you're not comfortable, start small. And if you're going to take a new shooter to the range, don't start them off with a high caliber.
Oh, I hate when people do that. You're gonna ruin their experience, and they're not gonna want to do it again. I've met so many people who have had a bad experience at the range because someone started them off too big and then they never want to do it again. If you're a shooter, your understanding of noise and recoil is completely different than everyone else who doesn't shoot. I've had many shooters shoot like a Ruger Mark, you name it, one of the Mark 2s, 4, 5, 6, and that's a relatively heavy steel 22 handgun, and they thought there was a lot of recoil there. And anybody that shoots knows a 22 Ruger Mark does not recoil much. So
yeah.
it's everything is different from your perspective to their perspective. So do not give them a 9 or 38 or 45 or 10mm or 40 cal. Like, start them off with BB guns and pellet guns. Get them into 22s. And then
work your way up.
Yeah, so many people screw that up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So don't do it. Origin of your name.
Like Macquarie?
You go with yours and then I'll talk about mine. Where's Mac come from? What's Mac? Because your
Son
name
of.
is Robert.
Yeah, but oh, my nickname.
Yeah, Mac.
Oh.
Why do people call you Mac?
Because my last name is Macquarie and I was in the military. Like, there's a lot of letters after Mac. And
yeah, nobody calls you Macquarie.
Any enlisted Marine over the rank of corporal takes one look at my name tag and that was it. They just cut it off at MAC. You know, like, they'd look at it and be like, Private, Mac, where are you? Like, get over here. Like, and then it just stuck. You know, it just stuck. You know,
Yeah.
so
now you're Mac.
So as soon as I got out of high school, I've been Mac ever since.
My name is Stav, but my full name is actually Stavroula, and that comes from the Greek word stavros, is mean?
Cross.
Cross, that's right, cross. And it's my grandmother's name, so that's why I was named Stavroula. Is Mac looking forward to retiring from law enforcement?
Yeah, but it's still too far away to really even focus on.
It's not on the radar yet.
No. It would be nice.
Someday. The grip tape on your 42s. It's not grip tape.
No, we stimple all that.
Yeah.
I use grip tape on any steel firearm. Heck, there you go. Hold on a second. Just happen to still have the 1911 right there. See the grip tape on the front strap?
Right here.
So I use grip tape when I have to, but on plastic guns I just stimple it. I use a soldering iron.
Did it to all our Glocks?
This technique, you can screw up a gun, so go slow in the beginning, but I just learned how to stimple.
It's a nice way to pass the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it does take a while.
He sits in the kitchen.
All of our guns are slightly...
But he does a good job.
All of our guns have stimple. Every plastic gun we own, we stimple, and I stimple it where I want it stimpled.
It's
so
nice.
When I hold a gun, I want it to hold me back. So I want it,
That's cute.
But like, I don't want it sliding away from me. I want it to grip my hand while I'm gripping it. So I do like having a bit of an aggressive grip texture on all my firearms, and I just make it the way I want it. It's a video all in itself right there. That would be a really boring video.
Showing how to do it?
Just one dot at a time.
Like
it's one
Ross.
dot at a time. Dot, 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 dot. And when you're done, it looks like it's supposed to look.
I don't know if this was a sarcastic question, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Hello, how does faith in God and owning a firearm for self-defense link to winning souls for Christ? You can't do that unless you're alive. So carrying a gun for self-defense is the way you stay alive to be able to spread the good news. What gun would you grab if you were awakened in the middle of the night?
We just did a video on this, but...
Yeah, we did. I'll link that one up here. We have videos answering a lot of the questions that we were asked.
I will answer this. You are very dumb when you wake up in the middle of the night. As far as like cognitive capabilities.
I don't even know what's going on.
Like you're dumb. Like your ability to just wake up and figure things out right away and know what's going on is diminished because you were just asleep. So you want a very basic, very simple, or very firearm that you're super comfortable with. You know, it shouldn't be anything you have to think about. So it should be like the gun that you know the most. That's just the Now, I've talked a lot about home defense over the years, and I think that, you know, the first gun you grab should be like the gun you have the most trigger time with, the most comfort with, all that stuff. And then that oftentimes is a handgun for people. But if you really think that this is a potential like gunfight in your house, I would absolutely carry that gun while you get your long gun. So long guns
like
are always
transitional piece.
If you're gonna get into a gunfight, you want a long gun. The handguns are great for when you don't really know if there's a gunfight coming. Like if you show up at a shots fired call and you're working my shift and you don't have a rifle in your hand, I am going to be so friggin' mad at you. Like you do not come to a gun call with a handgun. Like that's crazy. Like you want a rifle if you think you actually might need to shoot something. So having that gun near you, that's your super comfort gun, that's the first one you grab, great. Once you start listening and figuring out, oh no, this might be real, it would be great if you could transition to a long gun from there as your brain is starting to catch up and you're getting smarter. For both of us, it's pretty much the Glock 34.
Tips for finding the right church for you and your family. So this is something I'm kind of experiencing right now. I grew up going to the same church for like 30 years, but I moved and I had to find a new one. So tips, first of all, pray about it. Ask God to show you where you should be going. Second, you're gonna have to actually go. So every Sunday, check out a different church in your area. For me, I like to find something that's close to me, because if it's too far away, you might talk yourself out of going or not want to go as often, might not be involved as often. Make sure that it's a scripturally sound church, a church that actually preaches what's in the Bible. And everything else is going to kind of depend on you. But just keep in mind that church is not meant to just entertain you. It's not something that's designed or should be just for your entertainment. It should be a community that you're part of. If you read the book of Acts, which is when the church started after Jesus was resurrected, it talks all about the first church and how the apostles started the church and what it was like. And it's a lot different from the way some churches look now, which is okay because things change over time, but the general purpose of the church as a community of believers is the same. So just keep that in mind when you're looking and try a bunch out, and hopefully you'll find the right community for you. Hi guys, this is Future Stav here editing this video, and I just wanted to add something in here. When you're choosing a church, this is one reason why it's so important to be familiar with the actual words in the Bible, because that will help you to discern whether or not the things that are being said in church are biblical or not. And also, a lot of people say that they don't have to go to church in order to be Christian, and that's true. You don't have to go to church to be saved. But I heard a quote recently that I want to share with you guys. It said something like, you don't have to go home to be married, but if you stay away for long enough, your marriage is going to suffer. And I think that the same happens with our relationship with Christ. If we're not in a community of fellow believers, our relationship with God is going to suffer. And He designed the church for a specific purpose. So it is important, in my opinion, to be part of that community. Thank you guys for watching. We hope that these 2 Q&As were really informative and helpful. If you guys have more questions, leave them down below and maybe we'll do a part 3 soon. We like answering your questions and it's nice to have a wide array of topics. So we hope you like that and we'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Bye.